Hello, all, and welcome to the weekly podcast. I'm your host, Gurtej Hatwal. I have my co host today, Harpreet Garewal, with me. Thank you very much, Harpreet, for joining.
Hey, thank you, Gutesh. Thank you for having me again here to talk about some new topics as we used to get some new topics which can give the knowledge and to the all the society we live in. So let's bring up some new topics. So yeah, Gutesh, let's start with that topic. What we are getting for our audience today.
Yeah, no, thank you, Harpreet. So, as we all are here in the developed countries, here the judicial system is a little bit different from the developing countries. So, we all should be informed how the judicial system works here in a developing country so that once we are in a position or we face any challenges, we can sort them out with proper information. So, Harpreet, so how do you define the American justice system here?
So yeah, when we talk about that, of course, we talk about that we are living in a world's largest country, so the big country. So we need to have firm justice network so that we can everybody has their right and live whatever they do. So as we are sharing the screen, like it shows what are the things which you need to have in that kind of thing. Like this, it should have the discriminatory, fragmented, legalized, non-system quiet justice and case disposition network. So like we will talk about all those things. We are just giving the idea of what all the things which build all those justice network in any of the country, and we will talk about those for the US, that how the things works. We all know about everything goes around and how the people do, and the justice network they collaborate with everybody, but we'll know how those things actually really work here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Harpreet. As we know that the United States is a very much law-abiding country where the law or the judiciary system is very strong. So this system, they work in collaboration, like states, cities, as well as the federal, they work in coordination. The overall goal and objective is to bring any culprit, any wrongdoing to justice. So they have the performance measures. They can pull in any federal agency at any time in any case. So it is a little bit different from the developing countries. Information sharing is always there, as we see on the state freeways, cities. Whenever there is a need, there are CCTV cameras. Whenever there is a need, any law enforcement agency can get information from any other agency. They work in good coordination. So there is a good coordination as well as cooperation between different agencies in a developed country's legal system.
So yeah, so when we talk about that, there should be collaboration. When we know that the crime happens, it's not required to find if the crime is happening in some city or like county or the state. The criminals can stay on the same city or not, and if they want to get some evidence. As you said, Gurtej, that any agency can get involved, and that can be at any point of time when the justification is getting done. So they can reach out to anybody, and nobody like say no to those things or things that you find. They, if they have some information, they want to share it with anybody. They have the rights. They can. They don't say no to all those things because everybody, as we talking about justice, so justice is needed for everybody in this state. Sorry, in country who are like we're living in this country. So we'll talk more about these. That American justice system is hodgepodge of generally uncoordination institution run independently by at most every government unit. The system, the network is characterized by the given things which you have, the competing objectives, multiplicity of goals, no overall goals, like goal conflict can be there, but it should be all the goals are well defined, whatever we are going to achieve and how we're going to achieve. And that to get those things, to achieve those things, we have to measure those, like how they're getting achieved to those things, like yeah, to think.
Right. No, the due process is always followed in American judiciary system. If somebody gets any issue while they are driving or gets into any situation, there is a protocol, there is a process that is followed. So we should be aware of those processes. Law enforcement agencies are to help the citizens. They are not here for any other perspective, any other purpose. All law enforcement agencies, they have due process defined. They have cameras in their uniforms as well as in their vehicles so that everything is recorded. So crime control, that is another major activity that the judiciary system is involved in. They work heavily to stop crime or to put a deterrence in the criminal activities by providing good education, by providing good knowledge, as well as these law enforcement agencies, they work with all the hierarchies or all the lifestyles that are there in a society. They work with homeless, they work with the middle economy people, they work with high economy people. Whenever these law enforcement people they have time, they work with schools, they go to colleges, they move around.
Yep.
They are there so that everybody knows they are there to help them. Rehabilitation process is also there. If somebody falls back or gets into any criminal activity, they see them. If that person is mentally challenged or there is some issue going on in their family lives, they provide them such kind of rehabilitation activity. So there is no one system fits for all, so there are hospitals too. They provide them that kind of facility that will help them to come back toward their feet after they did a mistake. They learn, they educate them. There are schools, colleges, degrees that are offered to the inmates so that they can come back as a good citizen.
For sure. Yeah. So now, as we said before, fine, we will talk about more that how the things work, because we know everything. Like in general, we know there are police, there are sheriffs, there are departments, there are agencies, and all those things. But to elaborate those things, that how those things work and under which department or under which area they work on. So if you see the screen, like we are going to talk about, we separate them around like the federal, state, county, and city. So executive at the executive level, if you go to the federal, the FBI, DA, the prisons, the park rangers, we talk about those things. We see them. We know about all those things, but we don't know that they are work. They comes under federal agencies like federal government. But if you go further down, we talk about the police. We don't know there's differentiate between those police as well. There's a levels of those, the patrol police, the probation, the payrolls, the prisons. So these all falls under the state. Like state controls those kind of police. It's not like if only the state has the police level. If you see down below, the police comes under like city as well. The department which comes under county is called as sheriffs. So it's upon the level that they work on. They go under the departments. How do they the area differentiated between that where they are going to work on. As we said before, that they collaborate with each other wherever they need it. They jump in and they try to help. Like they work together to make the area or the country safe for every people in the round.
Yeah, no, this is very important. We should be aware which agency reports to which. Is it reporting to county? Is it reporting to city or the federal authorities? They work in coordination. They work with each other. From the job perspective as well, if anybody wants to have a job opportunity in these fields, at least they know, okay, FBI, that is a federal agency. DEA, that is a federal agency. So state has its own agencies. Then we always hear the word sheriff around us. So that is a county position which is the in charge of all the law enforcement that is happening in the cities that report to that county. So
Yeah,
from the legislative perspective, if we talk about, so like at federal level, so every district they have a congressman. So they go to the Congress, US Congress at the federal level. They create the legislative, they create the policies at the congressional level. Then state has their own legislature or the legislative body. If we talk about the
yeah,
assembly members, they go to a state. Just an example, for California, every city they have their own, two or three cities they have their own assembly district, and that assembly, the person that goes to the state assembly, they work for those cities to write regulations, laws for its citizens. If we come to the county, then county has its commissions.
yeah,
Those commissioners, they work together under the guidance of the employees that are employed by the county, and they write the laws and regulations that benefit the citizens that reside in that county. Same implies with the city. City has its councils. We always hear, oh, city has a mayor, then Some cities have 5 counselors, some have 3 counselors, some have 7 counselors. Depending on how big a city is, they have their counselors who work to just have all the legislature, all the regulations that are needed for the city.
Sure. So same goes like if you go further and the judicial level goes on like that also gets separated between federal, state, county, and the city level. If you see that, okay, Supreme Court, we all know that Supreme Court is above all those things, and that comes under federal again. And this also depends upon that it has in the state level as well. So those Supreme Court things is like if you want to talk about judicial level, it goes from higher to lower. So Supreme Court comes under the federal level and as well as state level. But state level again has the authority for the probation and level as well for the judicial level, because they also take care of those probation levels that is not coming under the county or city level. Even if that seems like an idea of if you talk about, okay, fine, this probation level can be under the city or the county, but it does fall under the state level. But county and the city has the different courts which they do justice for that level if that is the crime, and depend upon the things which happening around there. If that is not that big, they goes to accordingly either the city or the county levels.
Right. No, absolutely. So now if we talk about the law enforcement or the system that is in private security, so we know this country is very big, so only law enforcement that are at the city, county, or federal level, they cannot keep a check what is happening around us.
Yeah.
Like there are big shopping complexes, big buildings, schools, colleges, universities, they have their own private security to safeguard their people. So if we just an example, $60 billion annually that is being spent on the private security agencies who secure everybody around us. Around 4,000 agencies throughout United States, they are in this work to secure the lives of people so that everybody follows the regulations and the laws. So this is a huge industry. So it employs a lot. It employs 2 million employees in the United States. That is more than the public law enforcement sector. So this is a huge sector. So we should be aware of it as well. So private security agencies, they work hand in hand with the law enforcement as well. So they are the first deterrent. So some of them are fully equipped. They have full gear. They are very much trained, like in all the we always see in colleges, universities, or if we go to the shopping complexes too, they are fully equipped. So some of them have licenses to secure or to be a deterrent in any critical situation as well. So when they see something that is out of their hand, they always are in coordination with the law enforcement agencies.
Yep. So let's go further. Like, yeah, we when we talk about the fragmented network that inhabits the communication between the agencies, and we keep talking about those that even though they belong to different department, different areas, but the communication between them is more important because they should know and they should let others know if they need to get them involved or they want to get involved in some other things. The communication between them and the handover of all those things, if there is some details needed and all those things, that is needed, because that's what we call it as justice is done only if that there is a transparency between those things. If we keep hiding those things between each other, the agencies or the departments, then the common people will not going to get the justice, and that is the reason there is so much transparency for between each other agencies or peoples. Like even an individual knows that what is going on, how is the things happening, and how they can proceed to those things around happening around them, because they know the justice is going to be there, even if it might take time because to get into the roots. But thing is, they are going to get into those by working together, getting the communication and getting all the details, whatever is needed to get into that level for a kind of thing.
Yeah, no, these are very much important tips and information that everybody should be aware. And we always encourage, like, everybody should be learning about this and sharing this information. If somebody listening in developing countries, maybe who is related to the law enforcement agencies, so these things can be incorporated. So that's how nobody has to reinvent a wheel. But if something good is happening somewhere in some other part of the world, that should be incorporated. So now again, talking about the judiciary system. So legislatures, that are the regulations that are in place. Then comes the law enforcement, the police that enforces those regulations. Just if we take an example of a speed, so somebody should not be speeding 50 miles an hour. So that is a regulation, that is a legislature. The law enforcement, it is there to make sure that nobody speeds. If somebody speeds, then they will write a ticket that will go to the prosecutor.
for sure.
Prosecutor is the we can correlate the prosecutor as a attorney or as a district attorney or as a lawyer that reports to police. So that will file a complaint on behalf of the law enforcement agencies. Then we have the judges. So judges are there to listen to both the prosecutor, that is the police. If somebody has done some crime, if somebody has done a speeding violation, then they will listen to the person who is involved in those kind of situations. They will hire their own lawyers.
Yeah,
Then there is a payroll board. So if somebody does something wrong, then this payroll board has to decide, has to see, so what payroll amount has to be put on that person. Is that person a risk to the society? Then there are processes that are there to determine what how to deal with any kind of crime.
yeah. So let's go further on that. Like there is the one and the pyramid make them important. That how those things can be done, like cite and release. They depend upon the crime, whatever is happening. Like how do they handle all those things? When they find it, like if they found it their own, they take their actions. If someone wants to go and report those crimes, like this is what happened, and they want to investigate on those things. So there are different criterias on those things. Like depend upon what crime it was, where it has happened. They went to the site, and then they get the person, they get the involved person in that, and then the release is depend upon the criminal things. And then depends upon, again, we have the differentiation between that. Either they arrest and then release it, or they can arrest and book and then release, or if depends upon arrest and book and then detain. And they have to put the find what charge they are. That, as I said, depend upon what charge or what crime is happening in that area or whatever they're going to investigate on. And then depends like how they're going to justify that thing. Like either that crime is so big, or how they want to justify those things. That if this they're going to, it cannot be like same thing for like cite and release, arrest and release for all the crimes. It depends upon the level of that crime happening around that area, and then who did it and how is this thing happen. And based on those things, everything this thing matters, that what are the actions they're going to take upon those things.
Right. So this is police discretion. So whatever, if I suppose a law enforcement guy, they find somebody speeding, they
Yeah,
can warn them. It is up to their discretion. Now, once the police they defined, okay, this person was speeding way more than 50 miles per hour, that is as per the legislature, then they will write a ticket. It goes to the public prosecutor. Now we will see what are the discretions or what a public prosecutor or a district attorney can do. They can release based on the evidence, they can charge that person. Now they will find the charges based on what that person has done. According to the legislation, according to the books, those lawyers will charge them. They can make them informants. So like if somebody did a grieve mistake, so they can negotiate with them. So there are, they can ask them to plea, they can ask them, okay, if you cooperate with the law enforcement agencies, because crimes can be from small to large. So
exactly.
some people they become informants, we see in the news every day. Then their charges are reduced, sometimes their years of they have to be behind the bar, those are reduced. Sometimes the severity of the charges is reduced. So if the charges are very severe, if they cooperate, they reduce those charges as well. So these are in discretion with the prosecutors or
Yeah.
the district attorneys. Now we will discuss about the judiciary discretion. So what the justice system, they have the authority.
Yeah. So I just want to go over, like, just I guess everybody is aware of the case which just happened like a month back or something like that, where a truck driver was involved in killing of four people in accident, and that got sentenced for 110 years, because justice says that okay, fine, if you do a one crime, it depends upon like how they, when we're talking about a justice, and then they have to follow the rules, that they cannot go beyond that. And as per them, whatever the judicial law is there at that point of time, they were like, they've announced, they sentenced that person for 110 years, but as they got the police, they got the people involved in those things, that it was done, and it was done by mistake or whatever, if the thing happened at that point of time, the people get involved and they want, okay fine, someone has done that mistake, okay fine, this is done, but now he is guilty for that and he can get involved for that. But in that case, when so many people got involved, and they, I don't remember the exact numbers, they got so many signatures, that sentence got reduced to, I guess, 10 years, if I'm not wrong, in that case. But yeah, but that is not going to happen every time, but it depends, because they have to follow the rules. There is a judicial, we were talking about, that they have to follow the process and the rule books, which according to which, if something is written, if you have done so and so crime, according to that crime, what is the thing which you're going to involve in, whatever punishment or whatever which which you're going to get it. So that's the same thing which we talk about. There's a legal process which we have to follow, that we have to give the warrant, we have to arrest them, and all those things. They see the crime, what crime it was, and how it happened, and all those things, and then they give it for the trial, and then they get them to the court, and then they hear both the parties, and then they talk about things, how the things happen, what the circumstances were, and how those things like get involved in. And after hearing all those things, and they know that what is, who is bad, or what the things are going to happen at that point of time, according to those, all those things, they do the sentencing. Either they want to sentence them for a longer time, or whatever the shorter time it is. But after hearing both the parties involved in those crimes, they come to the decision of fine, what is the sentence going to be for that.
Yeah, no, in the legal process, we always hear the word subpoena. So
Yep.
the judiciary, the judge, they can subpoena, or the district attorney, they can subpoena anybody. So even if we always hear like the January 6th insurrection that happened in the United States. So they subpoenaed many of the congressmen. They even put a subpoena for the president of the United States. So then it depends on the lawyers of those people who are subpoenaed to appear before the court. They fight their thing, but the judiciary, they have the authority to ask anybody come in front of us when they need. So
Yeah.
they ask for testimony. So if anybody wants to add something or find the information, they can force anybody to put testimony, or they can ask anybody who is related to that case to come in front of us.
Yes.
Yeah. So then for the payroll board, so that is, if somebody is found culprit, then they are interviewed, or if that person can be released. So they see if depends on crime to crime. Then there is due diligence. There is full process followed. They put the conditions. So sometimes they will say, okay, bring any guarantor. So that guarantor will say, I give the guarantee of this person. So this person is not a harm to the society. So the payroll board will find the whole process, and they will see what to do with that person who is a culprit.
And then we talk about logistic. Okay, fine. We get into the numbers that roughly we have 1.2 million active lawyers in the US. So that makes us, okay, fine, relieve that how many people are really trying to keep this justice level to the level, okay, fine, in this country, okay, fine, that we have those many people struggling to give justice to all of us. And then if you talk, US has around 40 lawyers per 10,000 people, that which is third largest ratio in the world. Like if you talk about the world ratio, for 40 lawyers behind 10,000 people is a lot, big number in that case. And then we have 1,40,000 in 40,000 in US law school. The schools which we have, which study the law schools, that number is again so big high. And 35,000 graduates with law degrees annually. That is the number which comes out of the schools or the law schools from annually, which is the number. And US has about 10% of the world's lawyers, which is, and then New York has roughly 1,73,000 active lawyers in just in New York, if we talk about those things. So that numbers gives that, okay, fine, how many numbers, how many people we have around all of us. Who's,
Yeah, no, the United States system, it has its own problems. The legal system, as we have learned, it's a very robust, very fair legal system, but there are many large number of civil suits that are pending with the courts. So they have many large number of legal obligations, or because the legal system, they have to do due diligence, so it also takes longer time to solve a case because they have to find all the things related to a case. So the social orientation or the confrontation, so people, they are not very much happy with the legal system, so everybody wants justice not delayed that longer, so there are some roadblocks too, so some delays in the judiciary process. So there is a significant economic cost too, because legal system is not that cheap. If somebody gets into that legal system, it drains them financially too.
of course.
So yeah. So and lawyers, they are very important. So Harpreet, why do you think the lawyers are that important?
As we said, like to come to maintain that justice, to give justice to everybody. We cannot go. Everybody cannot go individually and fight for their justice. There are lawyers, as we saw the numbers before, that there are the lawyers who are making us feel safe. And there's so much to talk about. Many reasons, right, have been protected and would have never received compensation were it were it not for lawyers. Big business in particular, with their position of advantage, would run rough should over all of us into for the attorneys, because if you don't have those people around us, you will, like, we will get all the crimes and all those things, injustice keep on getting increasing in the country, and which is make us not to live in that country. So if we don't have those people in around us, we will be like getting into the jail or whatever, we are getting into the bad shape in the world, like, yeah.
Right. No, we all know how the kings, like in earlier generations, they were the rulers. So they
Yeah.
never listened to anybody. They were making their own decisions. So if we all know about the insurrection that happened on January 6th in the United States, they are after the president of United States. They try to find evidences. They are doing their due diligence. So this is the value of a good justice system. So this is the value of good lawyers who read the legislature, so they can try to find errors or faults in anybody. Nobody is above the law. If somebody does something wrong, if the lawyers, they find the proof, they can charge anybody. So that is the value of a good justice system. Otherwise, if there is no justice system, there are no lawyers, there's no judiciary, so kings and all those above the law, so they would be doing anything what they wanted. That was what was happening in earlier days. So this is a good justice system that we have in the developed country, and all the countries that are developing, who are learning from these systems, they should definitely learn from these systems. And the other thing we can say is that everybody who is living in a developed country, who is coming to these countries from other parts of the world, they should be aware
Yep.
what this system is. So this system is for them. This system is to help them. They should understand what is, if they see a security person, oh, this person is a private law enforcement agency's employee, then they should always see if the city, what law enforcement does, they are there to help them. They can anytime reach out to them. Then we have in the county, we have sheriffs, then we have district attorneys, then we have the judges, then we have our assemblymen, congressmen, city councils. These people make laws, rules, and regulations for us.
Yep. We should be thankful for all of them, because whenever we see them, because of them, we were able to survive. We live happily, and we can do whatever we want within the justice, within the laws, and all those things. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank
no, thank you very much, Harpreet. So today we learned something different that we all face in our day-to-day life activities.
you.
And thank you very much for our listeners to watch. We will see you next week with another topic. Till then, stay healthy and stay informed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Travel World. Get updated with travel and tourism.